Hi, I'm Johnny. In this video I'll be going over how to blend between two textures in a Three.js scene using Nodetoy, and then how to animate the blend with a scroll. I'm using textures with bake lighting, one for night and one for day. I like using bake lighting because in the right circumstance it can help with performance instead of casting a lot of shadows in a Three.js scene. It also means you can make a scene like this without using any lights, but this will work with any two textures. I'll go over the model and the textures I'm using here, and there should be a link below to where you can download the files if you want to use them. I'm using Nodetoy because I think it's brilliant for 3D artists. It basically means you can work with nodes instead of writing GLSL code. So it's much more like making materials in something like Unreal or Unity. Basically any 3D shader editor. I'll go over how to export the shader and how to bring that into a Three.js project as well. So I'm going to come over to Maya. And this is my scene. Just a really, really simple scene. A few little trees. If I turn on the wireframe, you'll see that everything, this is all one model, including the sky, the dome in the background. I've just done that for ease, keeping so I can just do it all in one animation, one scroll. But you know, obviously, if you have more materials, you just do the same thing. You know, you can duplicate this process up, so it's quite easy. But I have a daytime texture here and a nighttime texture if I plug it in here. And that's what I'm going to scroll between. And if I see here, click here, this is the UV. And nighttime here. And you see there that the little colour is the whole sky here. Okay. So I won't go over too much of the actual lighting because there's just loads of tutorials on it already, but it's just to show kind of basic setup of what's actually coming out of Maya into Three.js. So I'm going to hide this, and I've got Nodetoy open here. If you're not familiar with Nodetoy, the address by the way is just nodetoy.co. If you're not familiar with it, it's basically a really, really artist-friendly way. It's a node-based, it's an online tool for making node-based shaders, and it's much more, you know, if you're used to using something like Unreal, Unity, basically most 3D material editors, this is going to seem really familiar to you. There's lots of information here. It's a nice website. If you scroll down, there's loads of stuff, but it's kind of easy just to get straight into it. And if you go up to the top and open up the app, this is going to bring me to my account. And you can see here, I've been trying to do some like sort of stylized water shaders, but it's free, by the way. Sorry, I should have said you start a free account, and there's apparently going to be a professional, like an upgraded one coming soon, which is a charged one, but the free one's basically does everything I need just for this, and it's well worth having a look up at the community tab here and just having a scroll through and see what other people are doing. Yeah, everybody's stuff's up here, and yeah, there's loads of obviously really cool shaders, and you can have a look in and see what kind of nodes they're using and kind of see what the actual thing's all about. But again, this is going to seem, you know, really familiar to you, or more familiar to you than going into GLSL, which is kind of going to be a bit of a barrier for some artists. So yeah, so what I'm going to do is up at the top here, there's a new tab to create a new material. Once you've sort of signed in, made your own account, and that's going to bring me up to this menu here, which is really nice, really simple. Hide that behind. And you've got this sort of master shader node here, and it's just right click to bring up all the nodes, the node menu here, and you can just go through here and you can see there's noises and things like this, and yeah, basically, yeah, stuff you're gonna be familiar with. So all I need from this is like two textures. I need to just lerp or mix between two textures. So first thing is, because this is going to be an unlit shader, a bit like a Three.js like a basic material in Three.js. It's going to be unlit, so straight on here. And then I want, down here there's an asset tab, and if you click on it, there's a folder here, and there's just some, I don't think at the moment you can upload your own textures. I could be wrong on that, but for now I just need any two random textures, and I can relink them in the JavaScript in my Three.js code. So I'm just going to grab a couple of random textures. I'm going to start with this wood floor, and I'm just going to grab a gradient from here, and I'm just going to close the tab there. So what I need to do now is, if I just grab a lerp node, which is right click and just type in lerp, I can grab one of these. And a lerp is really straightforward. If you don't know, there's two inputs, an A and a B, and the alpha. And the alpha is interpolates between from 1 to 0 how much of each one you want to show. So yeah, so if I plug in the output of this texture into the A, and the output into the B here, and then the output of the lerp into the color, immediately the wooden texture is coming up. And if I change that 0 here on the alpha to a 1, it'll switch over to the gradient. And if I switch that to 0.5, you can see it's halfway between. So that's basically all we need. But what I need to do first is to make this accessible. I need to turn this into a uniform value, which is going to, it's what passes into the Three.js, which is what is going to make it accessible in the Three.js code. So I need to just drag this out and grab a float node, and you can see that set back to 0. It's set back to the wood because the float here is 1. It's at 0 here, and I can now control that value here. And what I need to do is, it needs to switch from the float here. Click on the float. It needs to switch from a constant to a property. So the constant is like hard coding the value, and the property is creating that uniform, which is, as I say, is going to be accessible. And I'm going to give that a name so I can actually find it, and it's going to be mix amount. And I'm going to give these names as well, and they're going to be texture 1, texture 1 and texture 2, just for the same reason, just so I can actually find them when I export this and load it into my Three.js code. So that's basically it. That's all we need to do to create this blending setup. And what I can do now is, if you come up to the top left here, there's a little spring icon, and if you come down and you go to export, you can obviously, there's an export function there. But before I do that, I'm just going to show what's going on in my, I'm going to go over to Three.js and see what's going on here. I'm sure I'll show you what I've got set up. And what I've got is basically just a really, this is a Vite project with Three.js uploaded, or Three.js installed, and it's just a really simple, I've got a ball here, moving sphere, just to check it's all working. But I'm going to completely replace this code with the gnodetoy example code, which I'll show you in a second. So yeah, so that is the setup. And if I go over back to gnodetoy, I'm going to go up to the export, and it's going to ask me to save. And before I export, it has to save the project. And I'm just going to call this project, it needs a name, I'm just going to call it mix shader, mix texture, mix texture shader. And it'll just take a few seconds to save off. Okay, so back over to the export, and it brings up this menu here, and it gives you the option between server hosted and self-hosted. I want to have this self-hosted, and up at the top here there are there are options for, at the top, it's React 3 Fiber, Three.js, and GLSL. I want Three.js because it's a regular Three.js project. And then it gives you this other line here, which is example and shader data. And the example is an example scene, which I'm going to use. And the shader data, if you see, there's this new code, and you can see the names that I entered earlier, the texture 1, texture 2, mix them out. And I'm going to download it. Give the option here, you can either copy it or download. I'm going to download it. And now I'm going to grab that, I'm going to use this code just as an example, just to work in, just to make life easier, and replace my Three.js code with it. And before I hit save, it's going to break as soon as I hit save. And because it's looking for two things, these are things, this is important, you need to have a gnodetoy installed on the project, and you need to have the actual link to the shader, and that's the shader that just is now in my downloads folder. Okay, so if I come over here to the gnodetoy npm page, I need this line here that I've highlighted. Basically, this is it here. I'm just going to copy paste, but I'll paste this in the comments, so you should be able to grab this below. I need to close the connection, and I need to paste that here. Close that. So I've already installed this on my project, but it's a quick, it is a pretty speedy import. And the other thing I need to install is gsap, because that's what I need for the scroll trigger. So if I do gsap install, oh sorry, that's the wrong way around, excuse me, it's npm install gsap. Wait, my mic here, gsap. And that's that sorted now. So if I save, it's still going to break. I'm just going to do it now. And what I need to do, oh, actually I've closed the connection. So if I start the connection again, that's broken. And the reason it's broken is because it's looking for that shader. And that's the one that's now, I downloaded before, and it's now in my download folder. So I'm going to go to my downloads, and that's it here, shader data. It's given it a 3 on mine because somewhere in these folders there'll be another version 1 and 2. But I'm just going to rename this before I do anything else and call it mix texture shader. Yeah, that should be right. Do you want to rename? Yeah. Mix that shader. Oh. Underscore, whatever. Okay. So I'm just going to copy that into my project folder. And I've already made I've already made this folder here called gnodetoy shaders. And it's obviously brought up the code here, but I'm just going to close that just now. And what I need to do is just relink that. So I should have this, hopefully this will auto-fill, gnodetoy shaders / mix texture shader. And you can see now the scene's working. So if you're just using gnodetoy shaders, that's basically, you have your own project. This is all you actually need. I should have that. That should be JS at the end. It doesn't really matter. You basically need to have it installed. You need to have it linked to the texture. And if you come down here, it creates the material with this. It is attached to the. You need to update the material, and it does actually, that's it here, let material equals no toy material, and it's data that it's calling. So yeah, so that's basically if you're bringing that into your own project, but I'm just going to work in here for now to keep this as concise as possible. The first thing I'm going to do, it does add a couple of lights to the scene, which I'm just going to delete, just because the whole point of this is there's no lights in the project. And what I need to do is, if I open up, I'm just going to see what's going on with this no toy material. I'll close you, and I'm just going to console log the material. I'm going to come down here, it's created here. So I'll console log material, and if I have a look in here, I've just made this really big, so hopefully you can see it. If you open up the little arrow and come all the way down to uniforms and open this up, you'll see all the uniforms in the shader, and these are all basically the things you can adjust. And if I come down here to, I called it mix value or something, mix amount. This is the one I created, and also you'll see down here there's texture 1 and texture 2, so those are the ones we need. So mix amount, something that's important here is actually this value under mix amount that you need. I'll show you in a second, but I was trying to set values on mix amount, and nothing was happening, so I'll just show you to explain what I mean here. If I type material dot uniforms dot mix amount, and then, as I say here, it's value, and if I set this to 1, it carries on the same, but if I set it to 0, I now see the wooden texture. And if I set it to 0.5, I've now got the 50-50 blend between the two shaders. So that's basically everything I need here. That's essentially the thing working. You will notice it is a bit fainter than it is in gnodetoy, but I'm going to fix that. It's a color space thing, and I'll fix it on the texture once I relink it in a second. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to stop the animation, just because it's a bit distracting. So I've got loaded in here, I've got this night set and day set textures, which are the ones I need. And I'm just going to load them in. Import textures, and I'm going to need a texture loader. So it's const texture loader, and it's a new 3 texture loader. Texture loader. And then I'm just going to load up the day texture, load up the paths for these. Day texture equals texture loader load. And then it's the path here. So the path is assets. Oh no, is it assets? Yes, assets, and then it's night day. Night day, I've called it with a capital. Night day set underscore day dot jpeg. See what that does. It's complaining. Maybe it doesn't want the... Oh, because that's a D, misspell. Yeah. So, and then I want the night one. And I'm just going to call that night texture. And change this to the night. So hopefully there's no complaints there. So hopefully that's working. So now, yeah, I'll just see if those work out. I'm going to attach them to the material. Material dot uniforms dot I think it was called texture 1 down here. Texture 1 and texture 2, texture underscore 1. And again, it's value under there that you need. So that's what's looking for the texture rather than the actual texture, texture 1 object. Value equals day texture. And you can see there, it's still on 0.5, but if I change it to 0, you can see there it's loaded onto my model. And then if I just grab that, I'm just going to duplicate it and switch it for texture 2, and it's night texture. And then if I hit the change the mix amount to 1, you can see it's changed that night one. And now I'm just going to adjust set that color space. So it's material dot uniforms. I can just copy this, and it's value again. Oh, and I set that to color space. Should be, that's it. Color space equals sRGB color space. And obviously that's going to depend on your own project. Let me see. That doesn't seem to have worked. Uniforms, texture 1, dot color space. What have I done wrong here? 3 sRGB. Okay. I was misspelling color space. I had no capital S there. And if I go back to 0, you can see the color map looks like as it should. And I'm just going to copy that for, do the same thing for the night texture. 2, and back to 1, and it's all working. So the next thing I'm going to do is set up the scroll animation. So first of all, I need to import gsap into the project. So that is import curly brackets, hopefully autofill gsap from gsap. I don't think I need core, so I'm just going to leave this from gsap, and I need to import the scroll trigger. Curly brackets, scroll trigger. And that's coming from gsap scroll trigger. From gsap scroll trigger. So hopefully that should be right. It's not complaining. and I need to register the plugin, the scroll trigger plugin. So it's gsap dot register plugin, and it's brackets scroll trigger. And I'll save again, and it's not complaining. Okay, so I'm going to go back down to underneath where I made these imported the textures. I'm going to set up this. Actually, I'll go after it's added to the scene. So I'm going to do a scroll trigger here. Oh. Animation, and that, the way you set this up is it's going to be a from to animation, and it's attached to the scroll. So you need to give the animation a name, and I'm going to call it day night animation, and it's a gsap dot from to, and that's going to ask you for the object. It's brackets, make some space here, and the object is back up to, is this the mix amount value. So it wants, gsap wants like the actual the object to put the value on, but it also wants the parent. So I'm just going to grab this link here, and it's so on the mix material uniforms mix amount, and then it's comma, and then it's a curly bracket, and it wants the value. It wants the actual object to animate, and that's this value here. So you call that value, and it's colon. I'm going to start at value 0. It's going to be a 0 to 1. And it's a comma there. Oh no, I don't need a comma here. I need a comma after the curly bracket here, because I need the second keyframe. Sorry about the autofill stuff there. And the second keyframe is going to be value also, or the second keyframe on the value is now going to be 1. So that should hopefully be right. So I need to create the actual scroll. That's the gsap animation created. So I need to create scroll trigger dot create, and it's bracket and a curly bracket, and this is going to set up the animation, and it's looking for the animation value, and that's this animation here, which is day night animation, and then comma, and I'm going to set scrub to true, scrubs to true. Okay. Now, there's a couple of things. Is that working? That is actually working. It's working super fast. So there's a couple of things. I mean, essentially that's it. That's it working. I'm just going to make a couple of adjustments in the CSS to make this work a bit smoother. And what I need to do, I've already added this section here, and I'm going to add, I've got this, I'm going to add a class here. This is slightly back to front, but I basically want the canvas to stay fixed, and I've got another element. That section is going to sit there too. The section's got some height, and that's going to, I'll show you in a second, that's going to create, give us something to scroll up and down. I'm going to add a class here so I can grab it in the CSS. Let's render .dom element dot class list normally do this in the HTML, but it's just because I'm using the nodetoy code. Dot add, and I'm going to call this canvas. Hit save, and then there's a couple of changes in the CSS. I want to do on that canvas. I want to give that a fixed position. Position fixed. I'm no expert when it comes to CSS. Top and left 0, just to fix the background, and then on that section, which I call section 1, and it's a class, so I need the dot. I want to make that one relative, position relative, and I'm just going to give it a height. Obviously, you know, this will be totally different with your own content, but I just want something to actually, a distance to scroll between. So I'm going to give it a height of 2500 pixels. And if I save that, hopefully, that's still flicking the animation. So I might have missed something in my my scroll. Is that? Oh no, sorry, I just hadn't saved. You can see now it's now smoothly scrolling as I scroll up and down between the day and the night texture. So yeah, that's the effect working. And the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in my model, which I haven't done. And I'm going to, so I need a GLTF importer. A GLTF loader, sorry. And I'll do that just to keep this together. I'll do it, or the gsap stuff together. I'll do it here. Import curly brackets GLTF loader. GLT. Are we going to offer GLTF? I got it right. Loader. No, it's not offering me the autofill from. Okay. I'll see if I can just make this autofill. Import GLTF loader from a3/examples/ JSM, sorry, /loaders/ and now it's going to hopefully GLTF loader. That's us. And it's not complaining. And I'm going to load that in after the textures. Model. Just call it model. And I want to set up that, call that GLTF loader. So I'm going to make a const GLTF loader equals new GLTF loader. And I want the model file, and that's the one I've got here, by the way. This is in the assets 90-day set, which is my little set with the trees. Const model file equals, what is it? what's the path? It's assets, night, day, set, underscore, night day underscore set. Dot gltf. I save that now, and there's no complaints. I'm just going to turn off the console log here because that's all working. Yeah, so the model file, and then I want the gltf loader to load up that model. gltf loader dot load dot model file, and I want that to call that model, and then it's a fat arrow function here, and I want to go scene dot add, and the model is what I need. Oh, hopefully. Now that's given me an error, but first of all, it would help if I removed this mesh, the box out of the way. So I'm just going to comment that scene add out. So there should be, that's gone, and it could be model.scene. Okay, that's, something's happened and it's not complaining, and what I think's happened here is that's loaded up but it's a white model with no texture. So if I add the, before I add it to the scene, I can say model dot material equals this material here, the no toy material, which is just called material, material, and hopefully if I hit save now, that has not worked. Is it the value? What's going on? Model.material. So let me just console log what's happening in the model. Console log model. Okay, so no problems. Seen children. I see what I've done. Under the it's this is the object here that I want to attach the material to. It's this children 0. It's now got this mesh standard material, which I think, let me see if I can do this. So I want model model.scene, got 2 dots there, model.scene dot children children 0 dot material equals material. Hopefully this will set the, yep. Okay, so you can see there that something's happened. It's worked, the model's in. Obviously something's not right, and basically all that's not right is the texture. I'll comment out this console log. The texture's just flipped. By default, textures come in with the Y flipped. I'm not, if I'm honest, totally sure why. But to fix it, I just need to, I should have given this a better name earlier, but I'm just going to grab this value here, the texture 1. I should have just called it, used the day texture or something to keep this, give it a nicer name. But instead of this whole path, but I'll just, for now, it'll be fine. Value, I think it's flip Y, and it is false. And if I save, it's now working. I'm going to copy that and paste it, but I'm just going to switch the 1 to a 2 here. And now it's working. Obviously the camera is not very nice, so I'm just going to I think I can just set this camera and move it up on the Y. Camera dot position dot Y equals 1, and there we go. And I can adjust this, and you know, obviously you can have a nicer camera or whatever, but anti-aliasing and stuff, you know, it's nasty at the moment, but obviously you can just set that. But the main thing is it's working. You know, you've got the setting. I should say also, I've just loaded this up. I'm working locally. I wanted to keep this straight to the point, so I've not spent time making a particularly, like, you need a more robust loading system basically. This is loading this is, my connection's fast enough that it's coming in, but if you were having a live site, obviously you would want to make sure those assets are properly loaded before they're called, or it's obviously going to break. But the main thing is, you know, the texture, the shader mix is working. So yeah, that's us. Light setup in a scene with no lights, super fast. I hope that's a help. I hope that's a help to you. If it is, I am going to be doing, this is the first tutorial I've done ever, and I'm going to be doing more like it. In my background's in 3D animation, sort of production animation, all sorts of stuff, VR, art direction kind of stuff. So if you're interested in seeing more tutorials like this, it'd be very cool if you would consider subscribing, and now you'll be kept up to date, and if you hit like and stuff, that'd be amazing too. I hope that's a help.